Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Intrikin, and joining me is a very special and very recent addition to Rhode Island FC midfielder Zach Herivaux. Zach, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Likewise, it's perfect timing because we're going to get to talk about some recent performances down south. But what was really fascinating to me in getting you on the podcast is that, you've only been with us for less than 30 days, but your time in New England extends farther back than your July 3rd signing with the club. How has your return home been to the familiar stomping ground so far?
It's been good. I've been getting a lot of messages saying welcome home. And my family only lives 30 minutes from me. So it's been real nice to be able to see my parents and my siblings and my friends that I grew up with. So it's just nice to be able to see some familiar faces and just to be around family.
So has New England always been home for you? I know that in some other interviews, I'm looking kind of through your player history, that it's been mentioned that you were born in Osaka, Japan. You yourself have talked about the importance of your Japanese and Haitian heritage. It's fascinating to learn all of that. Could you walk us through kind of what that's been like for you coming out of Brookline, Massachusetts?
Yeah, so I was born in Japan and moved to Brookline when I was 4 years old. And I went back to Japan probably once every year. So my mom's Japanese, and she has put a big Japanese culture in my veins. So I'm definitely can relate to a lot of Japanese people. But then on the Haitian side, which is a very different culture, where my dad's from, is also engraved in me too. So it's definitely different growing up and trying to fit in with people when I have such a different type of background. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed embracing each side of the culture, so it was good.
So with all of that time in Japan, is that where your soccer, like your desire to play soccer at a young age started, or was that just here in the States?
It was more in the States. I didn't play much back in Japan, but my dad is very big and a big fan of soccer. And he's the one that trained me every day in the backyard in Brookline. So he's kind of pushed that game towards me, and then I just gravitated towards it.
I always like asking players this because you hear about the bigger clubs like Barcelona, Serie A, but when you have connections to something like the J League, do you have a favorite team out of the J League?
My grandmother's favorite team over there is Gamba Osaka, since that's where I'm from. So that's who I support. It's a very successful team in Japan. So yeah, I guess if I had to pick a team, it'd be them.
If I were to tell you that I played it with the Red Diamonds a lot in FIFA, is that a pro or a con? Is that I don't know the rivalries that well, but what's the team then would be against, like who's your rival in the league?
Uh, well, I mean, it probably would be Cerezo Osaka because they both represent the same city. But Urawa Reds is it's a very very successful team over there. So they get a huge crowd every single game, and a bunch of successful guys have came out of there.
So getting back to stateside, you've spent your time with the New England Revolution Academy, coming up into it with multiple player awards. You were the third ever homegrown player in club history, following on the footsteps of Diego Fagundes and Scott Caldwell. What was that like, looking at the level of soccer pedigree that you were stacked up against, especially so young? Walk us through what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a little nerve wracking. Just because at that time, especially with New England, it was such a rare sighting to see homegrowns moving up to the first team, and that was never really my plan. My plan was to go to Providence College. I committed, I got in, and my plan was to play under Craig Stewart and John Marks there, and the opportunity just came kind of later in the year when the Revs offered me a contract, and I could not turn that down. And it was really a dream come true because I've always supported the Revs growing up, and it's definitely a bumpy road for me being able to get not getting a lot of playing time. But seeing guys like Diego and Scott be so successful there, it just really motivated me to honestly just never give up. And it's honestly shaped me to who I am today with all the adversity that I've dealt with. But I've enjoyed every minute of that, and it was those two were great role models for me in the locker room. So it was nice having them around.
Ooh, perfect segue into the next question. Would you say that they were the most influential people in your soccer development, or would you give that credit to, or would you share that credit with others?
Well, first and foremost, the most influential is definitely my father. He's always pushed me at every step of my career, especially my youth career, and he was best friends with Shalry Joseph. So Shalry was around all the time, and having someone like with his pedigree around and his leadership, and he was just a amazing person on and off the field, and he pushed me a lot, and he was training with my team, my club team when I was about 12, 13, a bunch of times. So it was good to see that, and I've always had Connell around growing up, Kevin Alston and Darius Bunch, a few Revs guys. So it was always good to see and interact with people who you look up to at a young age.
You, if I remember right, you wore Shalry's jersey, his
Yeah,
number, when you entered into the senior squad, right? So that must have been a really important moment for you as well.
yeah, definitely. I asked him before I requested a number, and he was just very excited for me to be able to take the opportunity.
In the USL side of things, I noticed that you've carried the same number over from your most recent team. Is there a significance behind the new number that you've selected, or is it just because that was the number available to you on the time?
Yeah, that's more of the number available to me. If 21 is not available, then I just go to whatever. I'm not too picky about it. So yeah,
Fair
whatever's
enough.
available.
Fair enough. Speaking of, though, on the international level, you now represent Haiti, playing for the Grenadiers, but you were also eligible to pursue football in Japan, with your heritage, as well as even the United States. I'm curious, what was the decision behind playing for the Haiti national football team instead of maybe pursuing something else?
Well, there's conversations of me trying to represent the U.S. youth national team. I got a few calls when I was younger, and then the calls really just stopped. I just didn't get called up much. I didn't really bloom into such a just growing. I bloomed late as a player in general, so I wasn't getting much scouts internationally, especially with the U.S. national team. I wasn't getting much opportunity. And with Japan, it was a complicated situation because once I started getting exposure over there, um, they were more keen on me making a move to Japan in order for me to start representing the Japanese national team since it's about a 14-hour change from the U.S. to Japan. And then Haiti, um, once they heard about me over there, they've always shown me so much love. And I gave it an opportunity with the youth squad, and I spent a month in Haiti, and I just fell in love with the culture, fell in love with the people, and soccer is it's more than life over there. It just changes how the entire country mood is, and it just brings so much joy to the country. And for me to be able to do that, I couldn't turn down that opportunity.
In terms of, I was trying to do some research on the different food types that exist, and in terms of Haitian Creole, are you a big fan of that, or have you not? It does not exist enough in like the local restaurant scene to get a good taste for it, like it may be, back home.
No, I absolutely love Haitian food. In Boston, there's a lot of Haitian restaurants. So my favorite dishes, um, it's called Dewey sauce with like white rice and the sauce and legume. It's like this vegetable mix sauce that you put on it, and I absolutely love Haitian food.
Are there any Providence spots? Do we need to get them to bring restaurants down to Rhode Island now for you so you can have some home cooked meals, basically, now that you're here with us?
Yeah, absolutely. If I haven't found anything yet, so if there's anybody out there that knows of any places, please let me know.
We'll put the order out for you. But speaking of your time with Haiti, you've played in some huge moments in your career, whether it was the international debut against Japan, which is also an incredible story there in and of itself. I know that you've had that friendly against Lionel Messi in Argentina in Buenos Aires. You've had the opportunity to win a game in extra time in the U.S. Open Cup in 2016 with the Revs. And then, of course, you helped advance Haiti to the semifinals in the Gold Cup, one of their farthest reaching performances that they've had in a very long time. With all of those big moments in your soccer career, is one of those kind of the one that's left that lasting memory of the penultimate soccer experience for you? Or is there something completely different that, you know, the common fan may not know is one of your most important soccer memories?
For me, probably the biggest and the most important memory that I have in my career so far is my Haitian national team debut against Japan. Um, that was just such a surreal moment for me, just because my dad's from Haiti and my mom's from Japan. My grandpa was sick back then, and he's never seen me be able to play. And I've always told him that I'll come to Japan and play for him over there. So that was the first time he was able to see me play. And it was my debut and against the Japanese national team, who I had so many players on that team that I looked up to. And it was just such an amazing moment for my entire family and for me too. I enjoy that game the most, and it was a fun game because it ended 3-3, so it was an entertaining match as well.
Was it a little bit of a house divided for your families as they rooted you on, but from maybe separate sides of it?
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, my mom was definitely still rooting for Haiti at that time, since I was there, but um, honestly, it was just funny. I mean, there's definitely no divides in the household because everybody's rooting for me, but it was a fun time.
Moving into the USL, you've been with the USL now since 2017 after a loan down from the Revolution to San Antonio, and you've definitely taken on this kind of journeyman through the league. Having been here now and having a look back over the last 7 years, what would you describe as the growth in the league? What would you describe as the growth in your personal game as well?
Yeah, I mean the growth of the league is immense. I remember back in 2017 when I got loaned to San Antonio, I didn't think the league was too great, to be honest. I came to San Antonio for a few games, and I remember um, me being young in my career and not understanding certain things. I requested to go back to New England, just because I didn't think um, I was developing as much as I thought I'd develop training with back in New England, since I thought there was such a huge level gap. Um, but also doing that, it was just immature of me and not giving it an open mind, and just honestly putting my head down and just working. And that's one thing I learned throughout my career, and being able to bounce around and go from the MLS to USL was just honestly to take advantage of whatever opportunity I got. And once I got loaned to Birmingham in 2019 from New England, I stayed there for a long stretch and kind of just embraced whatever environment I'm in. I have to take advantage of it, and the league has grown so much since then, and it's become a very competitive league.
As a player looking at where the league could go, what are some things, without getting yourself in trouble, of course, what are some things that you'd like to see the league tackle from, you know, the player, the team, the league rules? Like, what are some things that you'd like to see the league close the gap on?
Probably, I mean, I know there's MLS next, so there's areas in the country where a lot of young kids can have a lot of opportunity. I think that's what was lacking with me being early in my career. When I was a homegrown, there was no other place to get games other than MLS or USL. So there's no true pathway for young players, and I think you can do that in MLS next. So for USL, I think obviously I think promotion relegation would be huge. I mean, that just takes passion and fans and just competitiveness and pressure to a next level. And ultimately, I think also trying to get as much grass fields as possible, and because that's what makes the USL so unique. And some people don't understand that is you can't play the same style of soccer everywhere. When I was at Tampa, you play on grass, so you can play a certain style. But if you go to Detroit, you're gonna have to play a different type of style. If you go to Pittsburgh, same as here. and it's a league that you have to adapt a lot to. So I think if they can try to enforce maybe more grass fields or eventually get to promotion relegation, I think that would be huge.
There's been a lot of conversation with the technology and the evolution of those turf synthetic like hybrid fields. We've been told that Rhode Island FC may introduce that next year at Tidewater, where it's kind of like a combination of the two. It's still turf, and so it'll never be as good as, like you said, like the original, just having grass. But is that at least something where it's a benefit? It's a move to the right direction for players, you think?
No, 1,000%. I mean, Rhode Island building that stadium is honestly sending a message to the entire league. I mean, um, I know a bunch of players have opened their ears and kind of been watching Rhode Island's growth throughout this year because of that stadium next year, and it's just always so exciting when you have your own stadium and your fans have something to just root for. And it's tough when you have to share stadiums with other people constantly, and never really truly feels like home. But I think this is massive for the not only the league but for Rhode Island.
You've been around long enough to see teams start up and to see them fold in this league. What have been your initial impressions of the club operations side of Rhode Island this year? I mean, a couple of weeks ago, you were probably having mild discussions about how to prepare for a team like this when you came up to Burns Stadium at the tail end of the season. Now you're here and you get to see it from the insider of the other side of the direction of this. What have been those initial impressions, kind of outside and inside, for you?
It's been amazing. I mean, the transition was very easy for me, very smooth. Kano was very supportive on this move, and Jason Gove was very. It was the transition was just so easy. They got me into my apartment pretty quickly, and got me into training, got me my boots and everything I needed. So I have absolutely no complaints and just only good things to say about that.
I guess the getting into this whole transfer itself, interleague transfers are not uncommon, but they usually don't happen, especially amongst conference rivals, especially when there's an undisclosed fee attached for the trade. It would seem like Kano had you on a short list of targets to bring you into the squad. This felt very like preordained, very determined. We know that there's a backstory with you and coach going beyond just the revolution, but also with Birmingham potentially. Can you walk us through what that relationship and your history with coach has been, and what this all meant leading up to you joining the Amber and Blue?
Yeah, I mean, Kano was a great friend of my dad's as well growing up, and I've known him probably since I was like 11 or 12 years old. And he ended up being my assistant for my Revs Academy team. So I was very close with him from there. And then he was assistant at Birmingham, and our relationship just continued to grow. So I'm very extremely close with Kano, and I really look up to him as a person. And the number one important thing is I want to play under a person who just comes from a good place, and he's somebody that I believe that can take this team very far. And when I had the opportunity to play under him, I couldn't turn that down.
Does the weight of that responsibility weigh even heavier when, it's like I look at it as like, I know this person, there's a personal investment. It's not just the professional contract. I don't want to let the team down, but I also don't want to let the human being down, because the relationship goes beyond that. Is there like additional expectations you set for yourself as a player when you have those kinds of relationships built?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know he has my back, and as a player for this club, it's always important to have the club's back in general. But when you have people that you see as almost family um, supporting you, you're always gonna put your best foot forward. And I'll always put my best performance on the pitch for him. And especially with the background we have there's definitely a bit more motivation involved.
That's fair enough. Speaking of other people who you've kind of grown up around in this league, JJ Williams, it seems like the two of you can't get away from each other, whether time in Birmingham, time at Tampa Bay. I saw a great interview from a legacy Tampa Bay interview where he was talking nothing but positive things about you. Now you're both here at Rhode Island FC. It feels like that's not a coincidence. What's going on with that?
Yeah, honestly, we joke around about it all the time. Just like you just keep following me and this and that. But he's like a brother to me. I mean, his growth, to see his growth as a person, as a human being, number one, and as a player has been so fun for me. And I absolutely love that dude. He is such a genuine person. And now he's a little boy, so I get to see him be a dad and everything. And when I was coming here, he was the first person I messaged, and he was definitely super happy about it. And he's just a great person to have in the locker room and on the field. So I'm just happy to be back with him again.
I like to ask this question of any players that have those bonds. Is there any war stories that listeners should know about the two of you? Is there anything that can be shared above board that doesn't get either one of you in trouble?
I don't know. I think we keep it pretty simple. There's not many too crazy stories that are probably PG related, but no, nothing too crazy.
So talk us through what it's been like for you integrating into this team. You know, I've always been told that for players coming in mid-season, it's always a different adjustment than it is for players coming on board at the beginning, benefiting from the preseason, getting time to bond or gel with the squad. Have you seen that before? Is it the same here, or is it different because you have familiar faces like JJ Williams or the many Revs and USL alumni that you've made friendships with over your time in the league?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I bounced around on different teams, I've never been traded before, so this was definitely a new experience for me. So I didn't really know what to expect with being traded. Um, Tampa is a very veteran-like locker room, and then Rhode Island's pretty much the opposite with the young group. So, but my first day there it was easy, very easy transition. Everybody welcomed me with open arms. I remember Connor McGlynn coming up to me and saying how he's super ecstatic for me to be here. And those little things go a long way and just make you want to fight for your teammates even more. And the best thing about it is we had one home game and the next two games were away. So I got to spend a bunch of time with those guys in the hotel, in the meal rooms, on the bus, at the airport traveling. So I got to know each and every one of them at a personal level. And I think that's very important to carry on the field.
Speaking of on the field, you've returned to the pitch after multiple injuries sidelined you both earlier this season and a majority of last year. How has your recovery been overall? How have you felt about the minutes that you've played so far? Do you think you're ready for full 90-minute performances if given the opportunity?
Yeah, I mean that injury, that was a very tough year for me. Been out for over a year, almost 400 days. So it was definitely tough, and only being back for Tampa for 4 games, and then I get traded, and I'm here getting pretty significant minutes. I'm hopeful to build towards that. Since it's just been such a long time, I know Colin doesn't want to rush it, but I feel fit. I feel good, and most importantly, I feel healthy. And I'm just happy to be on the pitch and be able to just perform again because I missed it a lot.
Did you ever have a concern with that level of injury that you may not come back, or did you always know that you were going to find a way to get back on the field?
Yeah, there was definitely some days where doubt crept in because the injury was so complicated at times. But I just knew I had to go back to the basics, which was to just stack up days and just keep working hard each and every day, and eventually I'll break through some way or somehow.
Is it true that you couldn't sit down? I was watching an interview with a Tampa Bay news team, and there were moments in your recovery where you couldn't sit. Is
Yeah,
that true?
I couldn't sit down for maybe 7, 8 months or so. It just was too painful for me to sit. If I did, I'd maybe sit for like 10 minutes max, and then I had to get up. So I had to lay down and like eat laying down or standing up. It was not the most fun time, but it definitely gave me some perspective. That's for sure.
I cannot even imagine. As of recording this right now with you, you're currently in the hunt for USL Goal of the Week for one of the 2 goals that you earned last week in the Birmingham match. What did getting that brace last week mean to you getting back onto this pitch?
For me, it felt so surreal just because for so many reasons, honestly, just um, the difficulty I had the last year, and I always emphasize on how difficult the journey can be sometimes, and you celebrate maybe those 400 days I've been out. I celebrated all that in the 30-minute span that I was on the field, and those moments are really what uh, why you work so hard to be able to work hard all these years to celebrate those moments. And um, I definitely learned to celebrate those things because that's my first brace. So clearly that doesn't happen often, and it's important to appreciate those things. And being able to do that with this team, with those guys, and ultimately help get the result was just so amazing. And those guys celebrated me, and I'm just extremely grateful for that moment.
Was it bittersweet at all scoring against a former club that you've spent a majority of your time at the USL against? Or is it just one of those things where professionals, you're wearing the new jersey and you just move on?
Yeah, it was more of that. I mean, I've spent important years of my career over there as well, and guys that I fought with on the field are still over there. So it was definitely it was just something that happened, and unfortunately, it was against my old team.
Did Tommy Sohn have any words for you after the game?
No, no, not really. He just said he's happy to see me healthy, so that's good.
Probably the heat of the moment, right?
Exactly.
So it's early, but you're now currently in second place on this team in terms of goal contribution per 90 minutes with only 74 minutes played so far this season. You just kind of hinted at it yourself with this never have happened brace, but would you say that this is something to expect more of as you find a place on this team? The way Coach Kano is going to be playing you and the formation, we've heard that you are an ideal set for a 3-5-2 formation. Is this more on the horizon for you? Have you set the bar high with expectations moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, I've played so many different positions in my career, so I'm ready to perform wherever he puts me. So sometimes I may be center back, sometimes I may be in midfield and have more freedom to get forward. But honestly, I just want to help the team win.
So, Zach, for fans that aren't accustomed to your game or your play style, what are maybe some of the contributions that you'll be bringing to this team? Some of the dynamism that you're going to be showing that isn't necessarily correlated back to the role on the pitch?
Yeah, I definitely play with a lot of passion and intensity. I love to win my duels. I love to be on the ball. I love to bring composure to the team, dictate the pace of the game, and honestly, whatever the game needs, I want to be able to provide that for my team. So I take pride in being versatile as well. So importantly, whatever role I need to play in order to win, I'll make sure to do that.
This team has had a very interesting start. A lot of other squads, a lot of other fan bases have tried to tell Rhode Island FC fans to temper expectations because it's the inaugural season and to not get our hopes up. But now it seems like as of this recent run of form that all of the things that coach and the club had envisioned are really starting to bear fruit. As someone again on the outside who's experienced the USL playoffs, who's experienced seeing teams come up in the league and maybe not do as hot, What do you feel is going to be the business order on the day for Rhode Island FC to get into a playoff position on the tail end of the season? Is it just keep doing what we're doing, or is there something that fans should be expecting in a first year product like Rhode Island FC?
Yeah, I always use the analogy of, especially with this club, since like the stadium's being built right now, and that takes a whole year or a little longer to do it. And it's honestly going to the stadium and working on it day by day, and that's the same thing we need to do with the club and the guys on the team, is to build on it each and every day. And I think the fans are being able to see that as people. We're going to work and training every single day, and trying to figure out our identity. And the most important part of the season is the end of the season, and being able to compete in the playoffs. And I think that takes time. And we have a really, really young group. And I know Kano wants us to be united, most importantly. And I think the guys are getting closer ultimately off the field. And I think that is a huge result of, or a reason why we're being able to get those results on the pitch as well.
We have a tough set of games coming up, with 4 games in 14 days, 3 of them against opponents that are higher up the table than us, as we try to combat for a higher seed on that playoff berth. But then importantly, too, we have the second leg of the newly formed derby. Some are calling it El Clamico. I leave out to other people to decide. But what for you? Have you participated in some of the bigger derbies in the league? What does that mean for you? What is the squad kind of saying and getting prepared for these games coming up?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit more motivation in those games, but ultimately it just comes down to discipline and execution. So for us to just be able to win our duels on the field, first and second balls, and perform in our roles. So no matter what the meaning of the game is, the most important thing is to go back to our principles, and ultimately that is what's going to win us our games. And building those rivalry matches is always fun for the fans as well, to be able to bring more passion to the games. And I think that has helped grow the league, because those environments are always a bit different than just a regular match.
Would you say that this league is heading in the right direction when it comes to the fan support? I know earlier you talked about the developmental opportunities and the growth of it, but in terms of the fandom, you've probably seen empty stadiums and you've seen full stadiums. Where would you kind of define that first game where you got to play on July 5th at home? What did that look like in comparison to other moments for you?
Honestly, the first thing I said to my family after the game is that the environment's amazing. I think there's stadiums you go to sometimes, and I've played in stadiums where there's 40,000 people, and it just doesn't feel like 40,000 people. It's not loud. And then you go to the Rhode Island game, and it felt like there was way more than 4,000 or 5,000 people there, and that's always a great sign. And being able to make that environment hostile is so important for us, being able to play at home. And I know Kano talked about it today. We don't have a winning record at home, and that's so crucial to just be able to make that our fortress, and make it very difficult for teams to come and play there.
So you stole my thunder there. Is that a priority now? Because looking back, we have 5 wins on the season, but 4 of them are away, right? We only have that first win that you helped contribute to. What does that say I'm sorry, you only have the tie that you've experienced so far. What does that say about the needs of the club? Is there added pressures? The squad hasn't said that there is, but it feels like to convert that to a winning record, that kind of seems to be the order of the day, right?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's definitely important for us, and we definitely need to take pride in that, because we want to perform good performances for the fan, and we want to be able to celebrate those wins with the fans. And I think that's very important, and I think we're heading in the right direction, and hopefully we can do that this weekend.
Awesome. Well, hey, Zach, it's been a blast getting to talk with you. I always like to ask any players, especially local players such as yourself, what message do you have for the fans, people who have been following you in your career, not just in Rhode Island FC, but through the entire span of your playing time in New England? What's something you want to share about you and yourself right now?
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for welcoming me back to New England and welcoming me to Rhode Island with open arms, and the support and messages have been so amazing. And for me, it's just hopefully I can just bring new energy to this team, and hopefully I can get to know the fans pretty well and be able to celebrate good moments with them. And I'm here to help build the club, and hopefully we can carry on with this inaugural season in the right direction.
Zach, we can't wait to see what you accomplish with the rest of the season ahead. In the meantime, make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all your New England soccer coverage, and RIFC news at www.theblazingmusket.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us for more player interviews and behind-the-scenes coverage. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast. And, of course, we have Instagram at Raising Anchor. And you can also find us on www.raisinganchorpodcast.com. Zach, have a fantastic rest of the season. We look forward to your accomplishments and can't wait to see you tear it up on the pitch in the games to come.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Matt.